You're the first group. But now there's many groups all over the United States that start keeping the new moon as a result of what we started here. You're the first group that did that. And you're also the first group of Israelites in the United States to start observing the night of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the night. Most of our people that teach on it, they call themselves keeping it, are doing it the same night as the Passover. Last night when we met for the Passover, they also considered themselves meeting for the Feast of Unleavened Bread that same night. They thought that when it got dark, it became the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And no one has ever observed this night. The next night, the night of the 15th day, you started it. After you, other congregations that we're affiliated with. And after that, others that heard our shows and seen our tapes. But you are the first. Now, why is this so important? And that leads us to another question. I ask you, should, even though we don't keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread in this land, even though we are not in Jerusalem, I ask you, should we still observe the night of the Feast of Unleavened Bread? And the answer is absolutely yes. It answers both questions. And I am saying, those of you all that have not been with us these many years keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread in this establishment on the 15th night have broke one of the commandments. It's not a holy convocation. It's not a Sabbath, but it is a commandment that we observe this night. Read that again.
Verse 42, Exodus chapter 12. It is a night to be much observed.
It
Yahweh.
is a night. Why is it to be much observed? Not only observed, this is a night to be much observed because this is the night we received our freedom. This is the night that Yah brought us up out of that hellhole. This is the night that we were totally liberated. This is a night to be much observed
unto Yahweh.
Unto Yahweh.
For bringing them out.
For bringing them out. This is the night that you're supposed to be praying and crying and singing and dancing and rejoicing and giving your glory to Him, giving your praise to Him. This is the night that He brought us up out of slavery. He brought us out of the land of Egypt with a mighty and stretched out arm. And instead of you observing this, you somewhere watching a basketball game, a football game with somebody in a nightclub. And this is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh. You observe it to Him. You're not doing me no favor because I'm going to be here if nobody's here. But me, I'm going to still come because this is a night to be much observed. Why?
This is that night of
This
Yahweh.
is that night of Yahweh.
To be observed of all the children of Israel.
How many of the children of Israel? The ones that's not working? The ones that's not sick? The ones that don't want to walk out in the rain? Is that what it said? Do you know you had sons and daughters of Israel that went through that rain last night to get here? Just to thank Yahweh. Just to give Him His praise. Just say, I appreciate what you did. And still, many of us won't be here next year because you didn't see where it was a Sabbath. You don't see where it's a holy convocation. No, you don't have to come here. You could be at home just so you observe this. It's a night to be observed, much observed. And I used to observe it at home. But by it being something to be much observed, I said, hey, even though it's not a Sabbath, I'm going to get with other people that are also observing this. That's also taking time out to praise Almighty. And I'm going to get with those brothers and sisters. Because with them, with strength and unity. Because we all for one purpose, one heart, one aim, and one destiny. To give the Creator his due and his respect. So no need to be being at home. Let me call up my other brothers and see how many of them are like-hearted, like-minded, that feels the same thing, that feel the same joy, that feel that we need to give our thanks to the Creator. Read that verse one more time. Then you tell me if we supposed to be here or we supposed to just go about our business. Read it again.
It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh, for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh.
This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generation. And then look at verse 51.
And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their army.
By their armies, that self-same day. When? The 15th day. What part of the 15th day? The night that belongs to the 15th day is when Yah brought us out of Egypt. Not the night that Yah said we would remember the Passover. Not the night that he told us to stay in our house. Not the night that we went and seen Pharaoh. But the next night, he brought our whole armies out of the land of Egypt. And you are the first group of Israelites to keep that. Years ago, those of you all that were here, but this congregation, because we recognize the fact that this is not on the same night as the Passover. We recognize the fact that even though it didn't say Sabbath, it is a night that Yahweh said we should observe unto him. Give respect unto him. Give tribute unto him for bringing us up out of the land of Egypt. Now, who in here say that y'all don't deserve a big hand for that? Who in here that say that y'all don't deserve and warranted of our total support for that? Give Yahweh a big hand. Let the world hear you give Yahweh a big hand. The next question is number 5, am I correct? Or is it 4? 4. Can we keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread in America today? Can we keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread in America today? Whether you go by all what the rabbis are doing and what they've been doing, and all the great teachers and great professors and the great Kohanes all over the United States, you would say yes. But if you listen to Brother Elesha, who most of them call arrogant, scared to talk to, ostracized, often criticized, you would say no. Now, why do I say something entirely different? All we have to do is look in the book of Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter. Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter. In the 16th chapter, we've seen what Yahweh says about the Passover in the 5th and 6th verse. What did Yahweh say about the Feast of Weeks? Let's read the 9th verse. See how he addresses the Feast of Weeks.
7 weeks should outnumber unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And thou shalt keep the Feast of Weeks unto Yahweh thy Elohim. with a tribute of a free will offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto Yahweh thy Elohim, according as Yahweh thy Elohim hath blessed thee. And thou shalt rejoice before Yahweh thy Elohim, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are amongst you, in the place which
Yahweh the Elohim has chosen to place his name there. And when we keep it, thou shalt remember that thou was a bondsman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe to do these statutes. Now, what did he say about the Feast of Unleavened Bread? He told us again, Passover and the Feast of Weeks, only at that place. He gets to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He says in verse 13, the Feast of Tabernacle rather, he says,
thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine, and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite, the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within thy gates. 7 days shalt thou keep a solemn feast unto Yahweh thy Elohim, in the place which Yahweh
has chosen, because Yahweh the Elohim shall bless thee in all thy crease, and all the works of thy hand. Therefore shall I surely rejoice. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before Yahweh in the place that he has chosen, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, in the Feast of Weeks, and in the Feast of Tabernacle, and they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessings of Yah the Elohim which he has given thee. In other words, for this, if a man don't have much, give as much as you can spare. A man that's a millionaire, he don't give a tenth, he might give 40% of what he's got, and he's still rich. He give as he is able. The ones that's able to give more gave more. The ones that gave give less, they gave less, because they wasn't able. And Yah told them to give as they are able when they appear before him. Now with the tithes, every man gave the same amount, a tenth. Regardless, he only had a penny or 10 cents, only had $10 million, they gave that same amount. But you see that these days only be kept in the place where Yahweh has chosen to place his name at. The next question, did I answer that sufficiently? Do we have any rebuttals, or anybody didn't agree with my answer? We cannot. Number 5, if we're not in Jerusalem, must we still eat unleavened bread for 7 days? Now that's one that, when y'all gave me the insight of this law many years ago, I came and told the class, we don't keep this feast, but we still don't eat nothing leavened in all of our houses. They said, well, where you get that at? If we're not celebrating it, then why do anything? I'll show you. First, let us examine a couple of verses. Look first in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. Go back to Exodus, the 12th chapter. Verse 20, it says, let's go with 19 and 20.
7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses.
7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses.
For whosoever
be, whether you're not able to go to Jerusalem and make a sacrifice or not, whether you're unclean or not, whether you're in a journey afar off or not, whether you went to a funeral or not, whether you made it to Jerusalem or not, anybody that got houses, There shall be no leaven found where? Read that again so everybody can understand it.
7 days.
7 complete days. And that's not for us, because most people that don't have the knowledge that you have call themselves celebrating the whole Passover. They got the first day as a Sabbath day. They got the 7th day as a Sabbath day. They keep the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles as a Sabbath day. They keep their 7th day as a Sabbath day. They keep the Feast of Weeks in this land, believe it or not. So they're making immense sacrifices, although they're sacrifices of wickedness. It's not sacrifices of righteousness, because the sacrifices that they are making are sacrifices in disobeying the Almighty, showing how disobedient they are. But nevertheless, they're doing it anyway. And many of you all got that divine understanding that you don't keep that feast here. You got that divine understanding that you don't even have to take off work. You can work. You can make money. You can earn a living on that day. And still, you don't want to take the bread out of your house. No wonder some Israelites look at y'all and say, man, what? They're not keeping the day as we are. They're not keeping the Sabbath. And those people don't even want to take the bread out of their house. And Brother Lisa was definitely right when he pointed that out. And that's pitiful. And I'm looking out there, you don't need that bread. Y'all took you off of bread for 40 days in 40 years in the wilderness because of something in bread, I guess the fermentation that does something to your mind, like the fermentation in liquor or wine. But y'all said, for 40 years, I separated you from bread and wine that you may know me. So don't need to walk around all that bloated and being disobedient. You don't need that bread. You'll feel much better. Feel lighter and everything. Get it out of your house. Don't supposed to be in your houses. Read that again.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 19.
7 19 and 20. Read.
7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses.
In your houses.
For whosoever eateth that which is leavened.
Eateth that which is leavened.
Even that soul. Oh,
that's serious. Give the Creator benefit of doubt. Even if you don't know, give him the benefit of a doubt. I went without eating a fish called tuna for years, over 10 years, because I wasn't sure. Give him the benefit of doubt. For 7 days, give him the benefit of a doubt. If you're not sure what Elisha is saying, give Yah the benefit of a doubt. He said, the soul that eateth any leaven shall be cut off from his people. Keep reading.
Whether he be a stranger.
Whether he be a stranger.
Or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened.
Ye shall eat nothing leavened. So even whether you don't make it to Jerusalem, don't eat nothing leavened.
In all your habitations.
In all your habitation, wherever you're living at.
Shall ye eat unleavened bread?
Eat unleavened bread in all your habitations, and don't let it be found in your houses. That's enough to scare me and get me on track. But I'm different than everybody else. Maybe you need something else. Let me show you Exodus 13. Maybe this can be some additional information and ammunition for you. Exodus 13, read 6 and 7.
7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread.
7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread.
And in the 7th day.
And in the 7th day.
Shall be a feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days. And there shall no leavened bread be seen with thee.
There shall be no leavened bread seen with thee.
Neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters.
Neither shall there be any leaven in all of your quarters. Now you got your habitations, your dwellings, your quarters. Go ahead, you're finished. Yeah. And if that is not enough, let's go to Deuteronomy 16. Let's just say that's not enough. You need another witness. You're not going to believe your teacher that took you away from the Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues. Say that's not enough. Let's read a little further. Let's see if this can help you out. Look in Deuteronomy 16, read the 3rd and 4th verse.
Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days
7 days
shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction.
the bread of affliction.
For thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember
Remember, because you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou may remember
the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of thy life. And there shall be no leavened
and
bread.
repeat. He's getting very redundant, isn't he? Constantly. And there shall be no what?
No leavened bread.
No leavened bread
Seen with thee.
seen with thee
In all thy coasts.
in all of your coasts, whether you're in Jerusalem, Galilee, Nazareth, it don't make no difference in all of your coasts. Don't let it be seen.
7 days.
7 days. So you might differ with me, and many of y'all won't say it, but your actions will display it. But nevertheless, that's my answer. Anybody disagree with that? Anybody disagree with that? No? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is your question? That meant everywhere we were living, all of our territories. That's okay. Yes, sir. Well, even if you say, well, Alicia, I got you there. This is not my coast. But the thing it is, it not only did he say all your coasts, he said all your habitations. The word habitation means wherever you live. He said in all of your houses. And when we were in Egypt, we had houses. We dwelt in the land of Egypt. That was our territory. That was our coast. The ghetto is your coast today. You want to know where your coast is? Down the West End, the ghetto, Avondale, and Evanston, and over the Rhine, that's your coast today. That's your land of Goshen today. And if you don't believe you have a coast, you got a house, don't you? Yeah, that's when he said, in all of your houses. And even if you don't have a house, you say, I just got an apartment. Or I just live in this drop-in center. The Creator said, in all your habitations. Everywhere you're at. So, yeah, I think he covered everything to me. He didn't leave no place unturned for me. But you can, and if we take much time to find out how we can serve Yah, as we try to find out how we can't, we'll be much better off. But yes, sir. So when we were in Goshen, that could be taken from us. Not only could our land be taken, our lives could be taken. And did we have coast when we were in Egypt? Let me ask the class. When we were in Egypt, did we have coast? Did we have dwelling places? Did we have homes? And did we, the scripture said, the children of Israel dwelt in the land of Goshen. That was our dwelling. So everything that Almighty needed to cover the bank, I think he touched on it. Whether you would say you don't have a house, a quarter, a corner, anything, you still got something, baby. You living somewhere. You live in some place. And if I try to go over your house and go in, you're going to stop me. It's my house. You don't come into my house without my permission. You're going to respect me. That's the first thing you do. Pull out your little pistol and everything. Now, but you don't know it. Have nothing else. Don't have nothing. You understand? Oh, I ain't got nothing. Okay. All right. We going to go. Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, what we do today in this man's land, we take it out of our houses. We don't have it in our house because there's one law that said we can't have it in our habitations. That means where you live. And we know that even if you say we don't own nothing in America, this is not our territory that was given to us. Like we still got houses. So even though we don't keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we're the first to tell you that we don't keep the feast, many of us that learn to fear the Almighty still take leaven out of our houses. Even though it's not a Sabbath day for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it's still a night that most of us, or should I say, a few of us still observe. And when we finish, it's going to be a lot of people observing this night as the Almighty Spirit touches them and they begin to see the significance of this night and begin to see that our people have never observed this night. They're going to be observing it. It's a night to be much observed. Now, what does the word observe mean? If you look in the book of Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter, let me give you an instance. We'll go to Deuteronomy 16. What does it mean to observe? Here's what it means. Read the very first verse of the 16th chapter.
Observe the month of Abib.
Observe the month of Abib. And do what?
And keep the Passover unto Yahweh thy Elohim.
So we observe that month. We look for it. We watch it. We study it. We set it apart. We observe the month of Abib. That was our New Year party we had the other night. And why do we have a New Year's party? It wasn't a commandment, but by observing the month of Abib, the Almighty told the children of Israel, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So we are trying to get everybody to understand when New Year's is now. And we do it by what?
Observe.
The best teacher is what? Example. We observe our New Year's because that's the year that we came out of Egypt. That's the year that Yah made a new covenant with us, a new pact with us, and gave us a new understanding of his commandments. So we observed that. And likewise, he said, observe, and said, this night is a night to be what?
Much observed.
A much observed. But I can argue with anyone. Everybody say, hey, man, that's not a Sabbath day. You're right. I don't have to come and get it to you. You're right. Just stay home. You win your argument. You win your argument with Elesha, but did you really win your case with the Most High? The Almighty said, gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. And that's who Yah's looking for. Those that have made a covenant that I'm going to do any and everything in my power to serve you with my whole heart, soul, and spirit to the best of my ability. That's what he's looking. And he knows that we're not doing as good as we can do. All of us are capable of being better people than we are. Anybody think they've reached the ultimate, that they can't grow no more? They can't learn no more? And they reached the ultimate of their height? No, we're constantly growing. We're constantly trying to come closer. And I want to align myself with people that's trying to come closer to the Almighty. Not people standing up all night, burning midnight oil, trying to find ways to be further away. We're already further away. It's time to get closer to the Almighty. Brother told me this morning, I ain't going to tell you which one it is, one of the teachers. He said, no, I did not have a holy convocation last night. We didn't meet. I said, you didn't? So we said, all the rest of us did. He said, well, I didn't want to, since we can't keep the Passover, I didn't want to break it by having a meeting. I said, let me ask you this. Let's break it down this way. If you'd have had a meeting last night, would that have been a sin? I said, brother, you can call a meeting every day of the week. I can call a meeting here to study the scriptures every day of the week, and I wouldn't have broke one commandment. Let's look at the book of Malachi, the 3rd chapter for a moment. According to Malachi, the 3rd chapter, I'm going to show you what kind of person I am and a group of people that I would have aligned myself with Because look what Yahweh said he heard. He said he heard something one day, and I want to show you what Yah said he heard. He said he was walking, and he was talking, and he heard something. What did he hear? 16th verse tells you what Yahweh heard.
Then they that feared Yahweh.
Then they that feared Yahweh
Spake often one to another.
They spoke often one to another, often, all the time. Anytime when you walk by the way, when you go it by the, when you rise up, when you lay down, and when you walk it by the way, they were constantly doing what?
Spoke one to another.
They did what?
Spoke often.
They spoke often one to another. I meet here, I know I'm talking about the Almighty. If I meet you down at the bar, I don't know what we're going to be talking about. I meet you at the boxing match, I don't know what we're going to be talking about. If I meet you over what's the name's party, I don't know what we're going to talk about. But when I meet you here, I know what I'm going to be talking about, and I know what you will be talking about. And they that feared Yahweh spoke often one to another. And
Yahweh hearkened.
And he hardened.
And he heard it.
And he heard it.
In a book of
and
remembrance.
And a book of remembrance
was written before him.
And this book of remembrance was written before him for what?
For them that feared Yahweh.
For them that feared Yahweh.
And that thought upon his name.
And thought upon his name. That's why we have that book, and we come and open it, and I know it because I'm delighted. I'm honored that Yahweh hardened unto us and had a book of remembrance written for us. And that's the reason I know this book, and I study this book. This book is my life and the length of my days. And this is the book I'd rather talk to you about than any other conversation. And my conversation is, how can we better serve the Almighty? How can we do better than we're doing? Is there something we're missing? That's my spirit. Now you got a different spirit. Yeah. Yes, Levi, you had your hand up. And you're welcome to the mic, so it got to be important.
No, I just wanted to point out that the scriptures show that when we were not in the land, they still cleaned their houses out, because you had to go to Jerusalem for those 3 feasts, and which was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You had to leave your home. So it just is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Keeping these laws, even though we ain't in the land, we can still participate in the righteous acts and observance of the Almighty's ways. You had to leave your home. That's why it says if you were out in another country and you couldn't make it, you had to keep it the second month. You had to keep the Passover the second month. So it's got scriptures that let you know if you're far away, you still had to get the home straight. You just had to go to Jerusalem to keep the feast, to join the sacrifices and bring your offerings. But I want to mention something, and I'm just curious on the scriptures where it says you had brought up about not eating bread 40 years. And my question is, how did they keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread? If they didn't eat bread 40 years when we were in the wilderness, how did they keep the feast?
Well, they might have not kept it in the wilderness. We see they kept the Passover in the wilderness. I didn't read where they kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the wilderness. And he might have been talking about unleavened bread. He could have been speaking of unleavened bread, and then he couldn't have, and there's a possibility that he wasn't talking about bread at all, because I never read where we kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the wilderness, or the Feast of Tabernacle in the wilderness, but I read where we kept the Passover in the wilderness.
Well, that's true. Right, it doesn't state that, but even a Passover, you had to eat unleavened bread with with the Passover meal, with bitter herbs.
Yeah, well, maybe it's pertaining to unleavened bread. It's a possibility the creator is pertaining to unleavened bread. And when he said getting all the leaven out. And leaven, and see, it brings me to the attention that the main reason I was saying don't need a lot of bread, because the bread got yeast in it. And the yeast causes the fermentation. And I mentioned to you that possibility that he said he took us all bread for 40 years he's talking about bread that's fermented, like liquor and wine. But when you deal with unleavened bread, you don't have no fermentation. You don't have nothing of any intoxicating substance at all in it. You understand? But that was good. That was real tricky. I like that. I like that. Your brother's getting sharp. Any other comments? Yes, sir. Well, as I said, the Feast of Tabernacle, the night of the Feast of Tabernacle, is not a Sabbath that we're commanded to be there. And it's not a holy convocation that Yahweh called. But Yahweh did tell us to remember that. He told us this is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh. This is the night to be observed for bringing you out of the land of Egypt. This is that night. And so it registers to me that Yah is telling me that's very, very important. And he's telling me that we should try to observe that night and hold that night out as being very special, because it is special. He said it's special to him, and if it's special to him, it's special to me. It's like the Sabbath day. He said, this is my Sabbath day. This is the Sabbath of Yah. Of all the feast days, of all the laws, the only one I see that Yah kept is a Sabbath day. He said, this is my Sabbath. This is the Sabbath to Yah. He said, you go out on the seventh day, and you won't find it, because this is Yah's Sabbath. Now, the Creator don't have to worry about a law that stealing, because the earth is his. He don't worry about a law of killing, because he giveth life and taketh life. He don't have to worry about honoring mother and father, because he don't have no mother and father. So all those laws that we keep in the Feast of Tabernacle, Yah never kept the Feast of Tabernacle. He never kept the Day of Atonement. He don't have to make no atonements. But Yah did keep the Sabbath day. He did rest on the Sabbath day. He did bless and hallow and sanctify the Sabbath day, because in it he had rested. And he came back in the book of Deuteronomy or Exodus 16 and said, this is the Sabbath of Yah. So when Yah tells me to remember something, it's for a purpose. So I understand the greatness of the Sabbath, and I understand the greatness of the 15th night. And I'm trying to talk and teach you all to understand the greatness of this night. And last night, y'all don't know how great that night is. So, answering your question, even though you have to work and you want to be here, Yah knows your heart. And here's what Yah said about you. Go to Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter. Let's go to Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter. I want to show you what Yah said about you. And about you wanting to be here with us, and about us wanting to keep the Sabbath day, and about my cousin, them threatening him to, if he can't come to work on the Sabbath day. And I want to show you what Yah said about you and him and some other people as well. In the book of Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, notice what the 16th verse says. I will gather them that are sorrowful of the solemn assembly.
Verse 18.
18, all right, 18. Read.
I will gather them
I will gather them
that are sorrowful,
that are sorrowful, they're mourning, they're crying, they're saddened,
for the solemn assembly,
for the solemn assemblies,
who are of thee, and to whom the reproach of it was a burden.
Reproach was a burden to you, and you weren't able to be there to observe it with us. And Yah understand. He said he also gathered those that are sorrowful, so for the solemn assemblies, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. He's talking about you, brother. He's not talking about people trying to find reasons not to keep it. He's talking about people that want to keep it. Honestly, want to come here and serve y'all with all their soul, heart, and mind, but they're not able because of some circumstances that's preventing them. He's talking to you. He ain't talking to nobody that's just studying and reading and trying to find reasons not to come when they can come. Don't have a job, somebody trying to fire them. Don't have to answer to nobody, and they still won't come. He's talking about you. There's a difference. What number are we on now? 6. How many feasts? I'm sorry, excuse me, I didn't see your hand. Talk louder, go to the mic so everybody can hear you, because you, or tell him the question and then he'll repeat it. Based on? Where's our coast? He said based on the question of where our coast? He said in reference to our coast, where would the sin lie in not getting it out of our house or not getting it out of our coast, or what? We read and understand that the spirit that Yah gave me, the sin would lie with a man not getting it out of his house. Because you can always say, well, this is not my borders. I was brought here as a slave. This is not my coast. I don't own nothing here. You can give all kind of excuse. You understand it? Might justify, but you can't justify when they say, I ain't got no house. Because you're living somewhere. So that's the bottom line. You live somewhere. Now, if you live in somebody else's house and they letting you stay there, then you exempt. That's not your fault. That's a burden to you. You want it, but you can't. A lady called me up the other day and she asked me, she said, Alicia, somebody in the class here said, that's right, I'm sister in the back. I ain't gonna look at her. She said, I'm staying in somebody else's house now, but do I have to make them get all the leaven out of the house? I said, no, baby, that's not your responsibility. You can't go to somebody else's house and tell them to take a leaven out of their house, and you're a guest. You're not no fault if they got bread everywhere. You understand? I said, but you have the responsibility of removing it out of your house. That's the least. You understand? Well, and that's the reason I answered. I didn't say nothing about trailer, house, garage. I said, get it out of your house. Get it out of your house. So I don't have to address your truck in the backyard or your trailer or a place you store. I don't have to talk about that because I already said, get it out of your house. Ain't that what I said? Yeah. So I don't have to get to talking about the garages and his car and his station wagon. And I don't have to deal with that because I'd already make myself clear to do what? Get it out of your house. And I repeated that 100 times. You know, the house. Now, whether you want to put it in a garbage can, you understand? Or put it on your dog's back, you know, that's, you deal with that. But I just said, get it out of your what? House. My teaching is teaching you today to get it out of your house. That's my teaching. What you do with somebody else's teaching and what you might else decide and carry that, that's your business. But that's what I teach. You understand? All right, the other question is based on, I said there was 3 components for the sacrifice. We have to have a priest, a land. No, we said a temple or a tabernacle, an altar, and a priest. me 1 minute. Go ahead, just speak because I can't remember everything you said. Go ahead.
My question was, if those three were the criteria for a sacrifice, then in the book of Judges, I think it was the 16th chapter, I have to look it up, where we see that Danites, who were not Yehudites, that were not Levites, made a sacrifice, and the sacrifice was accepted. So the question being, are those the only three criteria for making a sacrifice?
No, I was not dealing with criteria of making a sacrifice. I was dealing with criteria as far as keeping certain holy days. And certain holy days, there was such as the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of Tabernacle. Yah said, like in Deuteronomy 16:16, all the males should appear before me, and they should not appear before me empty. See, there's three feasts that you call pilgrimage feasts, and they could only be kept in Jerusalem. And when they kept, they have to be brought to the temple, and at the temple they had the altar and the priest. And we don't have that. Matter of fact, we're like in the days of Moses, where they didn't want to make no sacrifice in the midst of the Egyptians. This land is polluted right now. Heathens are ruling over Jerusalem. We haven't reestablished the temple. Our people had not came home. The wilderness have not become as a Garden of Eden. And the saints have not came marching home yet. There are some things that have to take place before we can go up there and set up the priesthood and start sacrifices and start certain holy rituals and ceremonies. There are certain things that have to take place. You just can't go over there today in the midst of pollution and filth and these heathens and walk up on Jerusalem on the corner street, call yourself keeping certain feast days. It can't be done. And the more you study them, the more you see it in your spirit that it's not to be done today. Yes, ma'am. No, that night is not a night to be much observed. If we were keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread, we'd meet the first day, which would be the 15th, and we'd meet the 7th day, which would correspond to the 21st. But we're not keeping that feast. But even if we're not keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that night is a night to be much observed by all of Israel for bringing our people out of the land of Egypt. This is the night to be much observed. And when Yah tells us to much observe something, to me, that's a law. When he said, Elisha, this is to be much observed by you, that's a law. Even though I can't keep that feast, I can't find no reason whatsoever why I'm not able to observe that night. Even if you're at work and you're not able to come to the solemn assembly with us, you're able to still observe that night at work. Because they might have your body, but they don't have your mind. Am I right? Yeah. And your mind is with the Almighty and with his people. And then when you're able to be with us, I know you're going to be with us. Because your mind is with us already. But some people, their bodies wasn't here, the mind wasn't there, and they wasn't thinking about it. Not as they should, but maybe you didn't know the significance of it. But now you know. Now you know. Any other question before we go to another question? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely not. That's a good question, though, but absolutely not. Not unless you got some Gentile friends somewhere, but you don't take it to another Hebrew's house and say, I want to put this in your house. She asked during the season of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, can she take the leaven out of her house and store it in somebody else's house? take to a mama's house. And all of us started that when we first came into the truth. We said, maybe my potato mama's house. You know, they need food and they can eat it. Anything left, I can take it back. But that's not the right spirit. That's not the right spirit. Take it out of your house or put it in a garbage can. Garbage can, a house. Take it out. Now, I'm not going to repeat that because I'm not going to stand here all day talking about cars and wagons and no more. I'm not dealing with that no more. If y'all don't understand, if you don't understand now, how the record go? You'll never know. Yes, sir. No, you can't answer no more because no. What's your question? If you're in doubt, take it out of your house. All right, okay. If you're in doubt, give the Creator the benefit of the doubt. 7 days ain't gonna hurt you, but it'll be a feather in your cap. Okay? Yes, brother. Yes, sir. Don't let nobody sit with you. Come on. Can we go to the next question, brother? Now this is. It said don't be seen with you, though. That's your job. And you got cleaning products that you work with every day. And you have to use it. All right, you just your stuff, keep it out in your car and then take it to work. When you go to clean the rugs and whatnot, you got it. You don't have to bring it in the house, do you? Okay, then what's the problem? Well, I said, sir, I'm teaching to teach it out of your house. That's what I'm teaching. Now you want... Oh, my God. Yes, sir. We're finna go to something else. We ain't gonna stay on this right here because I want to do some other teaching and I want to get these questions. Anybody had any more questions? The next question is, we read number 8. Should we meet the night of the Feast of Unleavened Bread? And we talked about that earlier. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows that's when we dealt with the 41st, about the 40. Much observed. Now the next question is, should we meet on the night of the Passover? Last night we met. Should we have met? Or should we just stayed at home? Should we have met? That is a question. And I say, yes, we should meet the night of the Passover. Why should we meet that night? Let's deal with some scriptures. Let's go first to, gentlemen, shh. Let's go to Exodus 12th chapter. Exodus 12th chapter. Let's read the 26 and 27 verse. It says,
And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses.
That's when your children should say. They should even approach you. What is this? And we should teach about it. How else are they going to know not to keep it if you don't teach on it? And how else are they going to know the significance of it if you don't teach on it? And how else can you tell them it's special when you don't even get your tail out and come and meet with others on that night to discuss it? How is that a big thing? It's not a big thing. The Yah said he should be glorified through you. If you don't glory in his works, who is? If you're not the one to make Yah sanctified and set him aside, then who is? I repeat, Yah said he should be gloried through you. He made you for his glory, the Creator said, that you might glorify him. Now, how are you going to glorify Yah if you sitting up last night doing what everybody else is doing on the night of our Passover? On the night that Yah passed over our houses. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter. And why you looking that up, like I told the brother the other day, brother, you didn't make no sin if you came to meet. That's not a sin. We can meet every day of the week. And we didn't break the law. That's a feather in our cap that we come to discuss the mighty works. That's why this book was written. For them that feared Yah and thought on his name and talked one to often to another about Yah. And he had this book of remembrance to be written for what? For us. It says in the 6th chapter of Deuteronomy, let's start reading the 20th verse.
And when thy son asketh thee,
And when your son asks thee,
in the time to come,
in the time to come. In
Saying-
other words, it's going to happen in a period of time. He's going to ask thee in the time to come.
saying, what mean the testimonies?
What mean thee by these testimonies? You're reading about the Passover, Feast of Unleavened. But what you mean by these?
And the statutes,
And the statutes,
and the judgments,
and the judgments,
which Yahweh our Elohim hath commanded you.
which he has commanded us.
Then thou shalt say unto thy son,
Then you shall say to your son,
we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt.
That's why we used to be slaves. We were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt. We was his bondmen and bondwomen in Egypt.
And Yahweh brought us out of Egypt
And he brought us out of Egypt through the Passover. He brought us out
with a mighty hand.
with a mighty hand.
And Yahweh showed signs
And he showed these signs, these signs
and wonders,
and wonders,
great and sore,
great and sore signs and wonders
upon Egypt,
upon Egypt,
upon Pharaoh,
upon Pharaoh,
and upon all his household,
and become on all of his household
before our eyes.
before our eyes.
And he brought us out from thence, that he might bring us in, to give us the land which he sware unto our fathers. And Yahweh commanded us to do all these statutes.
He commanded us to do what?
To do all these statutes.
To do all these statutes.
To fear Yahweh our Elohim, for our good always.
To fear him for what?
For our good always.
For our good always.
That he might preserve us alive, as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness, if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahweh our Elohim, as he hath commanded us.
All right. Now start reading at the 6th chapter. Start in verse 4 for me.
Hear, O Israel,
Yeah. O Israel.
Yahweh our Elohim is one.
He's
Yah-
not a trinity. He's not a duo. He's not triplets, but he's one.
And thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim.
And that's what I'm trying to get you to do, Miss Hard-headed and Miss Hard-headed. I'm trying to get you to love Yahweh.
thy Elohim with all thine heart.
Don't love your own wisdom and how smart you think you is. Some of y'all are gloried in the puff stuff and the fact that you think you know something. Glory in the fact that you know Yah. And we're here to serve Yah. He's our king. It's about him, not about what we know, what we can show somebody, how you can try to prove somebody wrong. That's not glory in him. That's not how he get his glory. I found out years ago he get his glory in how we act and do towards him. Read that again.
And thou shalt love Yahweh
Thou
thy
shalt
Elohim
love Yahweh.
with all thine heart.
How much of your heart? All your heart.
And with all thy soul.
And with all your soul.
And with all thy might.
And with all your might.
And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart.
I want you to put these words in your heart.
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
Teach them diligently unto your children.
And shall talk of them.
And that's for my brother Ishai in North Carolina. They had a play that we got to have with the kids on Passover, reenacting that so they can understand. We should be having plays on the Passover, plays with little kids acting Pharaoh so they can understand the total significance of what's going on. They had little papers and writing things. And I thought it was beautiful. And they were doing this last night on the Passover night so they can get it in their heart, so it can be a part of their second spirit. Keep reading.
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
Diligently unto your children.
And shall talk of them when thou sittest
And I
in
want
thy
you to
house.
talk of these in, so there's no time limit in meeting and discussing the Creator's words. You should talk to them when?
When thou sittest in thy
When you
house.
sit in the house.
When thou walkest by the
When
way.
you walk it by the way.
When thou liest down.
And when you lie it down.
When thou risest
And
up.
when you rise up. That covered everything, didn't it? And you talking about you sinning because you met here last night on the Passover? No, that's a feather in your cap for the ones that were able to make that sacrifice and go through that rain that was in Carolina and Georgia and Cincinnati to meet in their classes and discuss and give praise to the Almighty. Right? We didn't have a class. We were praising the Almighty for what He did for us. And we want you to praise Him with us also. Those that are, their reproach of it is not a burden. If you're able to get off of work and able to get a ride here, we'd like to see you to help us magnify the Creator. We're His glory. Or at least we should be, shouldn't we? Keep reading.
And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand. And they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes.
So you see, we don't have no time spot. Well, tonight's the Sabbath day. We don't have no time that the Yah has set aside for us just to meet, and we can't meet no other time, especially on days and nights that we are to remember. And He told us, what did He say about the Passover night? He said in the book of Exodus, 12th chapter, no, the Passover night, not the Feast of Unleavened Bread. He told us on the night of the Passover. Let me show you what He said. Here it is. I want you to start reading the 12th to the 14th verse.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast.
Both man and beast.
And against all the deities of Egypt, I will execute judgment.
I'll execute judgment against all their gods that they claim they serving.
I am Yahweh, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood,
When I see the blood,
I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you.
now watch what He's finna say.
When I smite the land of Egypt, and this day
This day,
shall be unto you
and that's where we was at last night, this day shall be unto you
for a memorial,
a memorial.
and ye shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations.
All right. Now, we know that we only had one Passover, and that was in Egypt. And after the initial Passover, everything else we celebrated was the memorial of the Passover. And we know that we're not able to keep the memorial of the Passover in this land. But we can still set that night aside and remember it and talk about it and teach our children about what took place that night. And we can still meet and praise the Almighty and thank Him and show how gracious and loving kindness that He got. We still can do that, can't we?
That's right.
I mean, does He deserve it? Anybody think He's not deserving of it? Well, then, there you go. What's the next question? What's the next question? Of all the commandments, statutes, and judgments, which one that I considered the greatest one? And I personally, from my research, I think the Sabbath day is the greatest one. And I think that's that one law that can let us know where we at, the Sabbath day. Because when one is able to start keeping the Sabbath day holy and pure and clean, not doing his own pleasures, finding his own ways, not speaking his own words, but honoring Yah. Once he's able to do that, he's on the right track. He's on a track that he's ready to put him first, because that's what you got to do to keep the Sabbath day. You got to put Yah before any and everything to keep that day holy. And when you do it, it's fulfillment that you don't get in keeping no other law. Because when you don't kill, you ain't murder nobody every day anyway. Two laws that you get a lot of satisfaction at, and one of them is honoring your mother and father. Or you can feel that when you know you go out of the way and do things for them that you don't have to do, but you're making a sacrifice to do it because they're your parents. Even though they might not be worthy of what you're doing it because the Creator told you to honor them. You get satisfaction out of that when you take care of your people. A lot of people, when they get old, you just throw them in some kind of little crazy house or 6-folk home and forget about it. But get a lot of satisfaction out of honoring your parents and out in keeping the Sabbath day holy. And paying the tithes, a lot of satisfaction. I get so much satisfaction by coming here giving that $1,000 to the class for y'all's work that the brother gave me that I can't wait to get up there to the sister. Because it's the satisfaction that you get within when you know you're doing what you're supposed to do and you don't have to do it. You can find all kind of excuses to get out of it. If we wanted to be slicker, I can try to find an excuse for everything. Here, try me. What you want to ask me? I'm just slick as anybody in here. I can give it. If I want to be the devil's advocate, I can argue. What? Do we have any other questions? Yes. A difference between a covenant and a vow. A covenant, you have to make an agreement with someone. It takes at least two people to be joined into a covenant. A vow is something you can do by yourself. You can just make a vow and nobody be there but you. That's reading the scripture say when your wife make a vow, if you hear it, you can disavow her vow. If you hear it, hey, gentlemen, come on. Y'all ain't out in the woods somewhere in this class. Yes, sir. I broke my train of thought just that fast. But a vow, you can make it to yourself about the Almighty. You don't need a third party or second party. A covenant is agreement. It's an agreement that you're joined to with someone else. Yes, Dan. Well, that's good. Well, that means that you and I are lacking in our teaching. Yeah, we just have to do a better job in teaching that. You're right. Yeah, we're not to smoke. Those that are smokers are not. It's against the law to smoke a cigarette on the Sabbath day, to drink alcohol beverages on the Sabbath day, to engage in sex on the Sabbath day, to go to working for other people not in the clause of Yahweh on the Sabbath day, to talk about sports on the Sabbath day, those are helping somebody move on the Sabbath day. Those are all against the laws. You're right. And we got to do a better job in teaching. Yeah, you and I can do better, and all the teachers can do better. We just have to do a better job of teaching, that's all. But I found out when I'm really doing good teaching, I have a lot of enemies. People get mad. I even make other Morehs mad. And when I see them under the skin, I really go to work then. Don't let me see that you get weak, because I tighten up. Because I don't care about you getting mad, in other words. And that's why, yes, ma'am. Have we wrote a book with a list of things? No, but that's one of our projects in the future. That'll be something good, a good endeavor for us to get. A nice little booklet with what can be done on the Sabbath. And on each thing, we have a scripture showing why you can't have sex, why you can't clean your clothes, and then have a verse next to it. That's beautiful. That was a marvelous idea. Beautiful. We're going to get that together. Thank you. That was a beautiful thing. And behind each thing, we can't smoke, and then show a scripture where you can't kindle fire and show the thing. That's beautiful. That's what we need for the nation of Israel. Something that can do and back up by scriptures on each thing. If you can't back it up, don't name it. Yes, we're working on our calendar now. We need that as well. You're right. We need a lot of things. But foremost, we need a bunch of dedicated brothers and sisters foremost. Are you ready to join us? All right. Hallelujah. Any other questions before we? Yes, ma'am. How did JC became the Passover? To what they call a lie. A lie. The Christians will teach that JC is their Passover. In other words, they can't connect to the Passover as we do, because they're not part of the children of Israel. They wasn't born in our house or bought with our money, and they're not strangers that sojourned to us and were circumcised and made a vow to keep the Almighty's laws. They're just someone else, like the Seventh-day Adventists and a bunch of Hebrew Pentecostals and apostolic people that recognize the Sabbath. Now they're trying to find ways so they can incorporate the laws in. And they got JC, which they use to really defile it. Now they keep the Christians that keep the Passover, we keep it because they say Christ is the Passover. And the ones that eat the Passover meal, which they should do, they call that the Lord's Supper now. And then when they eat it, they say, we eating this because Christ told us that this is his body. And we eat this body in remembrance of him, that he died and shed his blood. And this wine we're drinking, we drink because this is his blood. So everything good in that's mentioned in the New Testament, something else totally defiles it. Totally defiles it. Any other questions from anyone? Well, it's going towards 7:30, and I don't have the time to teach a class, but we can talk about the Feast of Unleavened Bread a little more, because this is the night that is a night to be set out. Now, if anybody got to go to work, we're going to adjourn so you can go. But if anybody in here that don't have to leave, that they see the significance of this night and know that this is a night that our people never kept, and you're one of the first to start bringing it in with this congregation, because many Israelites don't know what we're talking about, keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread tonight, since many of them regarded last night as Passover. But the vast majority of our people, that the Israelites, kept the Passover Thursday night because they go by a Jewish calendar. And what does the Jewish calendar say? The Jewish calendar says that they don't even go by the new moon. They got a calendar that was made for the last 100 years. And then when they look at the new moon, you know what they regard as a new moon? This is what our Jewish friends regard as a new moon. When the moon is totally black and you can't see nothing, they say this is the new moon. Well, let's examine that for a minute. Let's first start in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. It's 7:30. Does anybody want to leave? If they can, I can adjourn the class for you and let you leave. Yeah, let's adjourn the class for everybody. And we'll stand up. All the kids, we don't have to send for them. We'll adjourn our class, but we'll keep our radio on, internet on, because some people in the community want to hear about what this is about. It says, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Akkad. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh is one. Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yah make his face shine upon thee and be gracious on thee. Yah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah! Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous.